輝いていても全く目が見えていないのです。
People who have been waiting for our TV are having tough life, but they are doing their best.
Yeah, that's right.
But why can you say that?
It's because they are working very hard.
However, we don't know their own story.
This way of thinking is found by the next speech traveler, Mayuka. Since her grandmother got disability, she realized too much compassion excludes her from society. She knows this extreme compassion is brought about by the major media. So through the speech, she wants everyone to become free from such image. Disabled people are not so miserable than you imagine, because they can live happily.
Now, we are ready for departure. Please make sure that your seatbelt is securely fastened. Let us welcome today's fifth space traveler. The fifth space traveler is Miss Mayuka Ueda from Waseda University ESA. She will deliver her speech under the title of Magic of Second Story. Magic of Second Story. So, Miss Ueda, please come up to the stage and launch your rocket to the frontier.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies and Audible Judges. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Life is like painting our own stories. Every time we experience something, we add a new color onto our canvases. We work on it until our last breath, striving to complete a brilliant painting. However, there are some canvases which are blackened out and abandoned by time. Since I was little, I loved my grandma. I remember one day when I was a kindergartner, we went grocery shopping together. There, we met a woman who lived in the neighborhood. After some small talk with my grandma, she said to me, "You are such a good girl. I am very touched to see you two walking together." She smiled and looked at my grandma. At the time, I was so confused to be treated sympathetically, like I'm the son of grace. However, I gradually noticed it was because my grandmother was physically disabled. She had a stroke when she was 60 and cannot walk without a cane. People with disability are often recognized only by a single story as a disabled. There are other aspects like personality, action, and idea, which I call a second story is often blackened out by a single story. So today, I want you to notice that we have a stereotype of disability. Now is the time for us to put under a magic spell that makes disabled people feel free from being just a disabled, allowing them to be respected equally. People who are called disabled are consumed as an object of inspiration. In 2012, Stella Young, a disability advocate, created the word inspiration force. It's about using disabled people in media as an option to arouse non-disabled people's inspiration. The problem is, because of such media, the non-disabled see disabled people only as inspiration force. and treat them differently. But isn't it good to feel compassion towards the effort? You may think. However, not just discrimination, but too much compassion can trample on their identity. According to a questionnaire conducted by NHK, 90% of disabled people feel uncomfortable about being a symbol of inspiration. It imposes them what we, the non-disabled, want to see to state our desire. Moreover, it makes them feel expected or even forced to live as an ideal and limits them from expressing their own identities. Isn't it same as porn, where we consume to please us? I was always proud of my grandma. She was kind, sociable, and couldn't just leave people in trouble. Though she changed nothing after she got a disability, people around her changed their attitude. She got a disability, but she's always right, her old friend said. She might feel tough, but always merciful to others. I admire her so much. My mom, who's my grandma's daughter, also said, Grandma's smile disappeared, and she started acting as she was expected to. I can see who she truly is. I cried out in my heart. I felt like my beloved grandma was killed and forced to live life as a disabled. Is it none of our business because we are born healthy? Well, but what about our future? Like my grandma, there is a massive possibility that your friends, family, or even yourself will develop a disability. The Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare says that more than 90% of people with a disability certificate get it after he or she becomes an adult. Would you want your relatives or friends to be consumed as inspiration for an object? Then, why do we consume them as inspiration objects? Let's think about it. When we see something emotional, do we feel relieved? It is because such a story offers us catharsis and reduces our stress. That's why we make a dramatic story of disabled people to state our desire. However, compassion makes us feel like we're doing a good thing, and we never imagine that disabled people are suffering from it. We cannot break this illusion until we become conscious of it. So, how can we break a single story as a disabled? Today, I'll tell you a simple linguistic trick. It is to try to find out their second story. Disabled people's stories are often narrated as they have a disability, but they are working hard. Or they have a disability, but they are living positively. Their second story is the one which comes after, but showing their features which are apart from the disability. When we see inspirational media or meet someone with disability, wait for a moment and discover what comes after, but this new way of thinking stops consuming inspiration porn and also makes you to perceive the true nature of things. Isn't it no surprise, yet extremely important? When I was in junior high, I met a girl who had an intractable disease. She was often absent or late for school and couldn't take exercise. She was a bit different, but I and some of her friends always got along with her because we all liked painting pictures. When we would go home, we walked our bicycles to keep it from walking pace. But during the walk, we were just cracking jokes or talking about paintings. One day, she said to us, because of my disease, I couldn't join groups. But now, I'm glad you all support what I can't do, but always treat me like home. Thank you. She smiled and looked at us. Life is like painting our own stories. Sometimes, a single story dazzles our eyes and makes us to blacken out people's canvas of life. Our second story rejects the idea of inspiration porn, letting us realize simple but important things. Not cheering them off, but having a natural relationship. It relieves them and lets them regain their smile. Isn't this magic of a second story. Thank you.
Next is the question and answer period. Mr. Polska, please.
Thank you very much for your inspiring speech. My first question would be, how is your grandmother doing these days?
She is fine, but like, because my grandfather died, she's in nursery home in my hometown.
Okay. Sorry to hear that. My next,
Yeah. Sorry.
that's okay. My next question would be, you mentioned the data from NHK about how 90% of people with disabilities are uncomfortable as inspiration. Did they give any reasons why they're uncomfortable?
Because it was shown in the documentary of NHK called Kariwara, and in the documentary they said that their story is exaggerated or like created by media, so they feel uncomfortable.
Okay, so your recommendation about waiting to hear the second story seems a little bit passive. Is there a way to be more active in getting to the second story? What could we do?
What I actually want to do is, if you see the media, I want you to find out their second story, and also if you are eager to do something, I am very glad, and like it will be effective to get in touch with disabled people and become a friend or like have relationship makes your life or way of thinking be more richer, I think.
Okay. In my own experience, my youngest son has a friend who has a learning disability. We often do play dates together. And during those play dates, I treat the boy as just a normal boy myself. But I feel uncomfortable because I don't know how to talk to the other father about his experience raising a boy with learning disability. How can we make it more comfortable for people to share their first story and also appreciate their second story?
So you mean his friend's father feels uncomfortable?
I feel uncomfortable in speaking to the father because I'm not sure how to talk about the boy's disability without sounding like I'm focused on what's wrong with him. What can I do?
I think it is your way to interact with is the best, I think, because though he has a disability, I believe the father thinks the son is a precious son, so we should like show respect and treat them as normal, and if they need
I'm
medical
very sorry,
support-
your time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Polska, and
Thank
please
you
go ahead.
very much.